first meeting, I think you'll be interested in this, he brought up the things that have come to pass. He said, you know, we have to be the people who have learned the best. Boy, I better take a bite of this. We're the people who are going to be responsible for the first hour of care, whatever it is that comes into the emergency room. So we got to be ready. Anything surgical, medical, obstetric. The first hour, that's what we're going to be. Good. Not only are we going to have to figure out what to do during the first hour, but we're going to have to get that into programs that are acceptable to medical schools so that we can actually form a specialty that these guys recognize and don't just treat us as interns again and the rest of our lives. So at the very first meeting, he had the right concepts of where emergency medicine ought to go. Then the 70s come along, and this whole band of brothers got together. We had a national meeting that I went to also in New Orleans, and we decided to form committees. We got a financial committee, education committee, and I was part of the community services committee along with Dr. Leigelmeyer. And we helped develop the early EMS programs, the ambulance instead of the hearses. It was very important that we did this. Dr. Vandler was still in charge of publications, and Dr. Hannes was the head of the educational committee. Dr. Leigelmeyer and I did the community services thing, and it was interesting designing the ambulances and trying to get EMS personnel together and get some training for them, besides what they initially got, which was American Red Cross trained them, and that was it. They got a little card that said they were American Red Cross certified, and they could get in the back of the hearse. And that's when we decided we better get rid of the hearses. This is not a very good thing to report. But in Ann Arbor, we had a rollover accident in the middle of the night. The car went down the ditch, so it wasn't visible. The police had dragged the patient up the roadside. No backboard, no neck brace, no nothing in those days. They just pulled him out of the car and dragged him to the roadside. Well, they had a system in California where the wreckers would monitor the police radio, and if there was a wreck, the first wrecker got the wreck and got the whole car away. The funeral homes had the same system going. They monitored the police radios. The first hearse to the scene got the patient. So we had 3 services in that area, and one of them was monitoring the radio, took off to the scene of the accident. The police officer later in the emergency room said, Dr. Douthat, I don't know if this guy was dead before or during the accident, but he was certainly dead after the hearse brought him in. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I was there with my flashlight and I had a flare out, and they didn't realize they were at the scene of the accident. We had dragged the patient up the roadside, and the hearse went bump, bump over the patient. And then they realized, hey, we're at the scene of the accident. They put it in reverse. Bump, bump. He said, by the time he got in the back of the hearse, he already had 4 wheels going. He wasn't in very good condition. In fact, he was gone. So Dr. Leigelmeyer and I said, this just can't go on. We've got to do something. And at that point, we had a new problem. The cities all wanted to get involved. The police departments all wanted to be first responders. The fire departments all wanted to be first responders. Gradually, as you well know, as time went by, it kind of fell into the fire department's range as first responders. But there was another big battle we had to fight. The cities wanted in on it, the police wanted in on it, the fire department wanted in on it. Things we never thought we were going to encounter. In the 1970s, in addition to trying to sort things out of that, oops, keep hitting the wrong button. At that meeting, unlike that Geico commercial, anything goes wrong. I am kind of like a little hiccup. The first resident, and this was kind of funny, I put it in parenthesis because Bruce Janiak at the University of Cincinnati, and one thing to backtrack, at one of our meetings we had a Dr. Flessa attend. Dr. Flessa was from the University of Cincinnati, and at one of our 1969 meetings, he said, you know what we've got to do? We've got to do it ourselves. We've got to start the residency. The universities are not interested. They don't even know what we're about. We're going to have to do it ourselves. And he said, I'm going back to Cincinnati and start an emergency residency. And he did. And he was actually a hematologist. So Bruce Janiak became our first resident in 70. In 72, he got a little certificate, and this is Graduate Certificate /EM. Nobody knew what the heck this meant. What is he? He's an emergency resident? There's no such thing. Well, he got his training from the teachers of emergency medicine, which at that time were Dr. Flessa, who was a hematologist, Dr. Lewis, who was a neurologist, and the chief of the medical staff. So they had never even set foot in the emergency room since then, except Dr. Flessa. And that's where he got his training, because we had nobody that knew emergency in order to train. But Bruce was a pretty flamboyant guy. He had a little office down there in the emergency room. He'd sit there with his feet up. Did you know Bruce? He'd sit there with his feet up on the table and he'd run everybody around. I'm the head of the emergency department. That worked out pretty well. And actually, talking to Bruce later on, he was a wonderful guy. He contributed an awful lot to emergency medicine through the years. But he always said that the most important thing he did was not being the first emergency resident. At one time at the University of Toledo, when he went to Toledo and actually took over the emergency department there, one of the pediatricians had a couple of little twin babies in there who were abandoned by their parents. And Bruce said, I'll take them home and take care of them. And he did. And then he got interested in abandoned children, special needs children. He ended up taking care of personally and treating them like they were his own children. He and his wife had 11 kids in the house. He said he had to, if he wanted to take them anywhere, he had to buy a bus to take care of these 11 children. But he contributed a lot to special needs kids and abandoned children. So that was more important actually than being a resident. At that same time, the very first helicopter came along, Flight for Life, at St. Anthony's Hospital in Denver. We were the second group. I don't know if anybody's heard of him, but there's a very flamboyant trauma surgeon in Houston called Dr. Red Duke. He's been on national television and all that sort of stuff. He always wears a cowboy hat. Looks like he had cowboy boots. But he was a very good trauma surgeon, and he was very good in publicizing the emergency department. Did a lot of good for them. And I'm surprised he didn't wear his 6 guns, too, down in Texas. He did start the helicopter service that we later became a part of. We had 5 helicopters at one point, and that was done out of Memorial Hermann Hospital in Houston. Also, the American Board of Emergency Medicine finally came about. We had 3 well, I should mention something that's important to you guys. The Emergency Medical Residents Association was formed in 74, and that was the start of your programs.
I was just going to mention to them there's another West Virginia connection in the Emergency Medicine Residents Association. One of the founders of it, one of the guys that actually founded it in a bar in whatever town
That's where we met.
That ASAP was one of the guys that was the founders of EMRA was Bill Walker from Huntington, who I think is maybe just recently retired from emergency medicine. But he was one of the founders of EMRA. There are other people that often get kind of dubbed as the founders, but it was actually a group of people, and Bill was one of them.
That's really great. I didn't know that myself. And then we were trying to fight for recognition. It was really difficult because we still wanted to be based in universities and have honest recognition as a true specialty. We were so tired of being just emergency doctor. That 4-letter word was a 4-letter word to all of us. Just emergency doctors. And so we want some national recognition that we are educated. And so we went to the American Board of Medical Specialties